have a minute.
Uno momentos.
Yes. So we'll get some of the background stuff done. Unless, of course, we've got a major time dilation between here and Australia. We'll get some of the back, which, that's only happened to us a lot. But we'll see how it goes. How is everyone doing this afternoon?
Friday, and it's a long weekend.
It is, although I'm working tomorrow.
You are working tomorrow?
Uh-huh. Yes, I am.
Well, I would say I work every day.
Yeah.
So it's not really a long weekend for me, but it is for, Cody.
Being the mom. So, anyways.
We have a filmmaker, photographer, and contactee. Well, kind of a contactee. Damien Nott on today.
Yes.
Super excited to talk with him. He's actually calling in from Australia. So we're hoping that the time zones have all lined up.
Cody says Jared always works.
How true is that?
Yeah. I'm excited. It's fun to get into some UFO stuff.
Yes.
It's always a good time.
UFOs are great. Any weird news? Did anybody else know that there was a Great Wall of India?
A Great Wall of India?
Yeah, I knew about the Great Wall of China. I found out, I think we are living in a different time. Like we've warped zones or something. I had no idea that there was a Great Wall of India. Turns out there is.
Well, they had to keep the Chinese out or probably the Nepalese out, because the Nepalese was keeping the Chinese out because the Chinese was keeping the Mongols out.
Yeah. So many purposes. I've always wanted to go see the Great Wall of China. Now I've got to go see the Great Wall of India too. It's to be inclusive,
Okay. Wonder why. Let me, while Betsy chats, I'm going to be communicating with the guests.
While I chitty chat, trying to find that weird news story I read earlier. So here's one. That like patents, you can patent a lot of things. There's millions and millions of patents out. There's an actual division that manages all the patents that are out there. Did you know that in 2006 a dog chastity belt was patented? It's an yeah, that's not a bad idea. And in 1999, I don't understand this, but dog testicle implants were patented as well. Maybe it's so that they don't get made fun of by the other dogs in the neighborhood. I don't know. It's called nudicles. And you can actually...
Well, yeah, I know about nudicles.
You can actually go to their website and, I don't know if they have different sizes or shapes.
So you get a little chihuahua and then put some Dobermans on it?
Yeah. The infamous mustache guard for the beer drinkers, have you seen that? The mustache guard?
I have not.
So when you've got a lot of head on your drink, on your beer.
Like mine's been giving me a lot lately.
Yeah, when you drink it, it gets in your mustache. So they make a cup mustache guards. You clip it onto your cup. When you drink your beer, you don't get any beer in your mustache.
So it's just got like a little half moon?
Yeah, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. So there was a news story just came out on Audi, I think this morning or yesterday morning. This man set his neighbor's house on fire. And he did that because he apparently had talked to them several times about cutting their lawn. And they hadn't cut their lawn. So Sunday morning, set their house on fire.
Good heck.
Yeah. Surveillance video showed that he tried to take, a couple of pictures of their grass and other things and kept going over there. And then he stacked up a bunch of sticks and plywoods, propped them against the house, and put some accelerant on it and lit their house on fire.
Just burnt the neighbor's house.
Yeah. For not mowing their lawn. It's a serious business to some people.
Yeah. Oh boy. We are getting our butts kicked by this program lately. It's happened 2 weeks ago also?
He can't get called in or
yeah. It's not coming through.
Lots of UFO disclosures happening right now. Tons more sightings. I don't know if it's because it's in the news and so people are, kind of looking up. But there is, like the Ministry of Defense insider discloses that they've known about these forever. And the phenomenon is not, is not something that they take lightly. So I'm wondering if our guest, we'll have to ask him if he has seen an uptick in, the numbers that he's seen since they've started to disclose it, like if there's a connection.
Okay, what was that again? Quick refresh, sorry.
All of in the news all the time. It's the governments have basically come forward and said, yeah, there's aliens. We've known about them.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Would you like some peas with your dinner? It's just like nonchalantly, like, yeah, we lied all these years. We've known about them, and so there's been this tremendous increase in the number of sightings since then. So I wonder if it's a correlation to more people looking up and, trying to see if they see them. I wouldn't say I spend a great deal of time looking in the sky. So maybe it's increased. They've increased just because more people are looking. Or maybe they've increased because now the aliens are like, yeah, they know about us. It's fine.
Or the aliens are getting closer. Before we've only had like little recon patrols.
Like maybe their technology is.
Now we've got the invasion.
The invasion.
The body snatchers.
Yeah.
We'll see what kind of technology they give us.
Another weird news. Dolphins deliberately get high on pufferfish. Now, I knew dolphins were...
Yeah, heard about that.
Yeah.
They like to bang into them with their nose.
Well, the pufferfish have this like nerve toxin.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you've caught a pufferfish, haven't you?
A couple times,
yeah. They're like super slimy.
Oh, you don't even know.
But what the dolphins have been seen doing is carefully chewing on these pufferfish, like not eating them, but just
enough.
Yeah, like just chewing on them,
that fix.
And then passing them around to the other dolphins. So you like puff pass,
playing puffer pass.
Yeah, so they're actually deliberately getting high on these nerve toxins.
Oh.
So the pufferfish doesn't actually it's not coated in them. It actually releases it as kind of a defense mechanism. And so what they figure these dolphins are doing is just like agitating the pufferfish enough. Well, like chomp, 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 and then it releases it, and then they pass it to the next guy, and you chomp, chomp, chomp. And
they're very slimy. You wear heavy leather gloves when you
When you
get
handle
them
them.
off the hook,
Yeah.
and so they have little spikes on them, little barbs, which can be uncomfortable, and they but the slime it'll destroy, like those gloves. You buy a cheap pair of leather gloves that day, and
It'll
then
destroy
you throw
'em.
away. Yeah, you just throw
It just
'em away.
sticks to them, or does it like eat through them?
Well, it's just they just so slimy and nasty. They're gross.
Mm.
And also because I don't know if the ones we dealt with have the neurotoxin, but you know.
And did you hear Ohio did a lottery for vaccine recipients?
It's not just Ohio. New York did
Yeah.
what was that? New York City did that that French fry lottery, and the
French
damn
fry.
mayor. What's the mayor's name? Shake Shack gives you a fry or a burger if you get your vaccine. And de Blasio
Oh yeah.
sat there in the meeting or in the
Eating
conference
them.
while he's telling you about it. And he eats loud.
Mm.
He's all and he just kept, and it was as disgusting a thing as I've ever watched in my life. It was bad.
So the first winner of Ohio's $1 million Vax-A-Million vaccination incentive prize has come forward. 22 years old. Won $1 million for getting an experimental vaccine. I mean, I just think if it's so great, they would be lined up to get it.
Huh.
Save that $1 million, finish the trial, and then go from there.
All right. So he's having a hard time getting through to us on this stupid program. Oh. Keep going, Betsy.
I'm looking through the rest of mine to see how old they are. I've been saving them. So there was another one I saw. There was a is it a gray? Is that what they're called? It's like a type of bird. It was raised in British Columbia, and it went missing for like 10 years, and it returned speaking Spanish.
What?
Yeah, it's like a giant talking bird. Poor guy.
It was raised in British Columbia.
It went missing for like 10 years.
So it migrated.
Yeah, it did something, and it returned. Like it literally returned to him, and it was speaking Spanish. Pretty crazy.
That is wild.
See what else my
sorry guys.
list has to offer.
I'm thinking that this program we switched over to is not the program that we are looking for. I seriously, I'm having, it shouldn't happen every other time we try to do something. This is getting to be ridiculous.
I wonder why he's unable to get in.
I haven't a clue. I don't know. It keeps giving him a black screen. I've sent it to him 4 times.
So my husband just sent me one. There was a okay, so everyone knows about Google Maps, right? So it launched on the market in 2015, and it provides these countless satellite imagery, and they stay for a really long time. Like I checked my yard, and we've had our grass in now for over a year, and it still shows that it's dirt. So it's probably every couple of years they change. But someone was wandering around Google Maps, probably in their hometown, and noticed something mowed into the grass. And somebody had mowed a terrible word and an arrow pointing to a house into his lawn. It's the word for a female dog and an arrow pointing to a house, and he mowed it into his lawn. It's going to live in infamy, at least for... And it's in Salt Lake. Oh, that's funny. It's in capital letters, and he mowed it. Like, that's... I mean, I have a hard time mowing straight lines. You mowed, like, an entire word and an arrow. I mean, I wonder if it's still there, because they really don't change those that often. That's too bad.
Yeah.
That's funny. Salt Lake City. Let me see what other ones I've got that I wanted to talk about. There was a couple of really strange... There's lots of strange things happening in the news. Most of it's political, though, so we're going to just leave that alone. Jared can cover that on his other show.
I may have to try scheduling and reloading all this crap.
Weird. So there's 3 hours ago, there was one posted. There's a weird solar phenomenon happening right now that causes objects to have no shadows. It's like the sun is at a perfect 90-degree angle directly above the Earth. It's actually called Lahaina Noon. That's interesting. People are probably thinking that it's from chemtrails or something. We don't have any shadows anymore. Oh. Lawmaker steps down after urinating naked into a coffee cup.
Like we're talking that Australian poo jogger kind of situation.
This Canadian lawmaker has stepped down to seek assistance, quote unquote.
Oh, this is a Canadian.
After he was caught urinating into a coffee cup on a video called During Government Proceedings.
He's up there.
William Amos announced he would be taking a break just a month after he stripped naked on a different call. What? He insists that both the incidents were accidental. What are you doing peeing in a cup? He's in his home. He says that he got home. He got back from a run.
All right, he is here. We figured it out, and he's got a massive going on.
That's right.
Yeah, how's it going?
Nice to meet you, Damien.
Likewise, guys.
Welcome,
Sorry,
welcome.
It finally worked. All good. How are we today?
Good.
We're great.
1 second. That's good to hear. Excellent. Okay.
All right. So that's all right. We had some fun news to chat about while we waited for you, but we're glad you made it on. This is a new app for us, and
not sure if we love it.
It's been 50% of the time it's been a miss.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not a good start. That's not a good sign at all.
Yeah. Not sure if we love it. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I research UFOs. I film UFOs. I look into them. Videographer, photographer. I make documentaries, starring documentaries. I pretty much for the last decade I've been in the public eye in relation to the UFO phenomenon. Doing talks around Australia, that kind of stuff. a decade ago, I came out because I was in a place called Dunedoo, which I'm back at now in the country, New South Wales, and about 7 hours from Sydney, thereabouts, and sort of inland. And yeah, and basically a decade ago, we started seeing UFOs here in the house. Not in the house, but above the house, around
That's
the
good.
area and that. Yeah, and so I called up a UFO group in Sydney, and they sent out investigators, and the investigators actually witnessed the second they arrived in the area out front of the house here, a UFO fly over the house, very low, a big disc-shaped thing, but not with a dome or anything. It was just a big orange glowing thing, just went over the house during the daytime too, so there was no mistaking it for anything or anything like that. So, and it just went from there. It's rare when you contact the UFO investigation group that they actually come into the town afterwards and actually see the
Yeah.
phenomenon themselves. So it was a big deal at the time, and I think it was about a week later. We had Sun Herald journalists in the town, which is a big newspaper here in Australia. Sorry, my earpiece keeps nearly falling out. um, and it's early in the morning here. I'm still partly asleep.
Yeah, it's still trying to wake up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so the Sun Herald journalists, they were in town because they stopped over here. They were visiting some fires just outside of town here at Coonabarabra, and this whole area is known as the astronomy capital of Australia because the lack of light pollution. It's all farm area, and hardly any street lights or anything like that. So you can see the entire cosmos. Really, it's just beautiful out here. And so the town was on fire just the next town across, and it was big news. So they were here investigating that, and they stopped off in town. And one of the ladies who was the president of a UFO group was in town at that stage, and she had actually seen 9 UFOs over the previous 2 nights with me. And so she was blown away, and she mentioned it to these reporters who were staying at the same place that she was staying at when she was in town. And they were, oh yeah, wow, exciting. And they came up, and and actually within probably about 7 minutes of being here, witnessed 2 UFOs flying over the house, playing a game of tag through the sky, like catch up. One would zip ahead, the other one would catch up to it, and directly behind each other. It was just amazing. And so it really blew their minds, and they were like, wow, do you mind if we do a story kind of thing? And at that stage, I wasn't too keen on going public or anything. I didn't really want to. I just wanted them to investigate it, the investigators, and go from there kind of thing. But they came back the following week, and they were going to do a skywatch. And if we saw something else during the skywatch, I was thinking, yeah, maybe I'll put my name to it or whatever, and say, yeah, we saw some weird stuff. And I'm sure enough, they came back, and they were in a bit of a rush. We didn't see anything, but they wanted me to do the story, and I was like, yeah, as long as you guys mention that you saw what you saw over the house. And sure enough, they did in the paper. So yeah, so I went ahead with the story, and they mentioned it. And after that, we had people coming from all around Australia, hiring buses and cars and driving from 15, 16 hours away from the other side of Australia to come here to see UFOs, hopefully. So it didn't always work out for them, but most people who came into town in 2012, most people actually witnessed UFOs, which was incredible. We were having a massive, what we call a flap of UFOs at that stage. So lots of people were seeing them, people from police officers, ex-judges, all walks of life, people seeing them, chefs, people at the service stations, and
you
all
called
over the shop, yeah.
You called it a flap of UFOs?
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, that's like a term that's used, when there's a lot of UFOs seen around an area, because that's what tends to happen when you're in a hot zone or a hot spot, we call it as well. And Dunedoo here is a bit of a hot spot. A lot of country areas are, for some reason. They love hanging out in the country, maybe because they're not seen as much by the city folk, or who knows, but they love hanging out here. But,
you'd probably see it more because of the
light pollution.
Yeah, the light pollution and everything else.
Yeah, that too. That definitely helps as well. But a lot of the ones that we've seen in town here actually come down quite low, which is quite incredible. We've seen them like above the yard here, just balls of light hovering and spinning around. Some of them bobbing up and down, all different colors. We've seen them following aeroplanes. So I started filming them a decade ago, and I knew nothing about photography or videography before then. But it was a big thing. So I was like, we'll see them quite a bit. So I was like, I may as well start filming these things, you know. On cheaper older mobiles during my life, I'd witnessed a small hand view, and I caught a couple of captures, but they were really not the best quality because the early mobile phone cameras weren't the best. But so I started investing in some really good equipment, learning about photography, videography, and started up a website and to teach people what misidentifications were. And so over the years, I've purchased about 62 different cameras, and
Oh my
I've
god.
put myself in positions, yeah, to try and like I don't half do things, you know. I go
I'm
all the
all
way
in.
or no way. So yeah, so and you know, I've got rigs with multiple cameras on them, and so I can film one object and you know have film it on multiple cameras at the same time. It doesn't always work that way. It's quite rare, but normally you just grab one camera and run out, and you're lucky if you've got like a minute or 30 seconds to film one of these things. They don't really hang around for too long. They're pretty short lasting, the whole thing. But I've seen them since I was 9 years old. Since I was 9, and then again when I was 12. I saw a red ball of light when I was 9, and I asked my mum about it afterwards, and she said it was probably an aeroplane, and I was like, no, it was just above my head. You know, even as a kid, I knew she was wrong. So from then on, I started like becoming. It piqued my interest, but even as a kid, you kind of want to believe your mum, you know. And so I was like, but then when I was 12, we saw another red ball of light when I was camping out with my stepbrothers in the backyard. It was a hot summer night, and we're on sleeping bags and rolling up at the stars. And this is in Sydney, mind you, and you know, Western Sydney. And looking up and saw this red light getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like dropping down towards us. This is what it looked like it was doing. And all of a sudden, the blue lights come out of nowhere, started chasing the red light all around the sky. And then literally about a couple of minutes later, they were zipping around, and one would go this way, and the other one would chase it, and then it would go this way and go that way, and it would just, and then they would stop. Like you know, with a car, you'd have some forward inertia. So when you come to a full stop, you don't come to a full stop. You come to a slow
Right.
stop in a car, and if you put your foot on the brakes, you still got some forward inertia. But these things come to a direct stop at the drop of a hat, and then 90-degree left-hand turns, right-hand turns, you name it. They can disappear, then reappear in this part of the sky, go invisible, you name it. Like they're incredible. You develop a kind of passion for it, you know. So after this sighting when I was 12, and these lights, there was a yellow light that came in too, a yellowy green coloured light, and it was that and the blue light were chasing this red light all around the sky for about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's a very long sighting. Even a sighting that goes for like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, when you're in the moment, it seems
Feels
like
like
forever.
forever.
It's like, yeah, because you're
Yeah.
looking at, oh wow, what is this, you know? And time sort of slows down and almost stops. It's really bizarre, you know. But yeah, I developed like a passion. I started reading about it from then on when I was 12 because I had then my stepbrother saw it, my father saw it, this whole event, and everyone was blown away. None of us could describe what it was we saw, what it was we experienced. For me, like not so much my stepbrothers, but me personally, I started reading more, reading about UFOs, borrowing books off anybody I could, doing whatever I could to find out more about the phenomenon and what I'd seen, you know, because it really blew my mind. It changed my whole viewpoint on everything, on life, I guess you could say. And even though I was a kid, but so over my life, I've probably seen about 12, 13 UFOs up until 2012. And that's when I moved to the country here. And on the second night, I saw a massive white ball of light moving across the neighbor's house behind us. And all the animals in the area were going absolutely bonkers. The dogs were going crazy. The cattle were going crazy. Uh, it was just it was incredible. So I was like, oh wow, here they are, like amazing. So I started getting my father. He'd come outside too, and then he'd see them with me. And so eventually, like it got to the point where we get a book and
It's
go
like
out
bird
nightly. And
watching.
then if we ever, yeah, sky watching, yeah. And if we ever saw anything, we'd like write it down in the book and describe what happened, the characteristics of it, what it did, the color, the shape, you name it, where it went. Um, Wind conditions at the time. We try to rule out certain things like satellites, planes, all that kind of stuff. Um, it's easy to do that nowadays. Once you've seen one satellite, you've seen them all.
Yeah.
Once you've seen one plane, you've seen them all. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can rule out a lot of things. So yeah, so I developed a passion and got right into it. Yeah.
I know here in town last night, one of Elon Musk's satellites went overhead and it left I don't know how it did it, Everyone got video of it last night. People went
Yeah,
crazy, and apparently
the, the
they say
Starlink.
it was Starlink satellite. But anyways, how big are these orbs?
Yeah. Can you
These
gauge?
UFOs you usually see. How big would you say they are, or does it vary? Do you have big ones and little ones?
Yeah, it absolutely varies. There's all shapes, sizes, colors, you name it. I've seen them as small as probably a little bit smaller than a ping pong ball,
So
tiny, like red glowing ones, and then a green glowing one that was a bit bigger than a tennis ball, white glowing one that was about the same size. Um, then they got up to basketball sizes, soccer ball sizes. It's like they're growing like humans. I don't know, they're getting bigger and bigger as they grow. I don't know if the baby ones are the small ones. I have no idea, but whatever they are, they're pretty amazing. And one thing that I've never said is they're aliens, like per se, like they're little green men from another planet or something like that.
Tiny
Because
green ping
how
pong
do we
sized men.
tiny little ping pong? Yeah. And
imagine their
well, look,
voices.
They're hearing it.
yeah.
They come out sounding like the Lollipop Guild.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Go over.
exactly. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
maybe,
You need to hear them. Like, yeah,
maybe they're
tiny.
drones or something. If they're that small, maybe they're a form of a drone.
Surveillance.
Yeah, maybe they're
Quite possibly. That's what it seems to be. Some sort of surveillance. I don't think it's surveillance by our governments or anything,
No.
keeping an eye on us and just hanging out in country towns with their high tech drones or anything like that.
Above a cow farm.
We're gonna make
Yeah,
sure
yeah, I
that
mean-
these guys, that these 10 people that live in this county are kept
Yeah,
up here.
Yeah, let's go freak out some country people. Yeah, let's play some games. With some,
Wait a
with
second.
some
Now
country
that
folk.
I could see the NSA pulling those tricks because they've been caught
Yeah,
doing some
probably.
shady stuff.
I wouldn't put anything past them, but yeah, but there's a good possibility. There does seem to be some sort of observance program or whatever you want to call it underway, and it's been with humanity for a very, very long time. These balls of light have been with us for thousands of years. There's
Does it
going back
feel,
all throughout history where they've spoken of. Yeah.
does it feel like they like when you notice them that they then disappear? Or is there a correlation between people watching and how long they stay?
Yeah, it's part of the high strangeness of the whole thing. We call it high strangeness because weird things seem to happen when UFOs are around. They seem to know when you're watching them. They seem to know when you're filming them. Some of them seem to care and some don't. We have this part of high strangeness, which is a side topic of ufology, where you'll go out and you'll be filming or you'll see something coming, you'll grab your camera and you're like, oh wow, this is going to be a great bit of footage or whatever. And you start filming and the camera will stop itself at 1 second or something. And then you'll still think you're still filming and then it's already stopped like 5 minutes ago or something. Or your memory card gets wiped or your battery on your camera goes dead. And this happens multiple times to people all around the world who've tried to film this phenomenon. And whether that's like a side effect of actually filming the phenomenon itself, of what they're giving off, what's powering their craft. I hate to say the word craft, but for the audience purposes, it may be a side effect of, because I know that they give off strong magnetic fields, or they alter the Earth's magnetic field when they're around, and that's testable on tri-field meters and other equipment. And so they do affect the air around them. It seems like they're encapsulated almost in a bubble, and they give off some type of radiation which seems to ionize the air around them due to its contact with the oxygen, and then forms a glow. And that's what we're seeing, is this glow in the sky, or this ball or cigar-shaped object that's glowing, or so many different types. It's what we're not seeing nowadays so much is the old school flying saucers, the ones where
ones.
the Hollywood silver ones. Yeah,
Dome shape.
they're very rarely.
Windows.
Yeah. Like I've seen probably one of them in my life, maybe two. One from the underside, and the other one directly from side on. But I wasn't the only one to see that. I was being filmed by a Canadian documentary crew by a gentleman called Rob Freeman for a documentary that's coming out this year, actually in a couple of months. And he's travelled around the world and gone to people and seen people like me who investigate the phenomenon, who film the phenomenon on a regular basis or semi-regular basis. And I just finished a conference talk up at the Gold Coast at a conference that was all about paranormal, had paranormal speakers from around Australia, around the world, and it was in this big hotel. And I just finished a talk in front of about 1,000 people about UFOs, spoke for about 4 hours. And the second I came outside, and I'm sitting there and being interviewed for this documentary by Rob Freeman and his crew, and we're out on this balcony and we're overlooking, the Gold Coast, and there's high-rise buildings and everything. There's the beach to our right and beautiful day and everything. Oh, this is incredible, And Rob had like a camera rig like mine, where he had multiple cameras on it, and one of the cameras was a thermal camera. It was like a $72,000 thermal camera.
Oh my
so it
God.
wasn't a cheap thing. It was almost like a military grade kind of camera, and it had a built-in memory card, so you can record what you see to the memory card. And sure enough, after I finished the interview with him, I've seen I'm looking at it. He's going, "Oh, you want to look through it, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do," because I'd never seen at that stage. About 5 years ago, I'd never really seen properly through a thermal camera. So especially one that expensive, And I was like, "Oh wow," So I'm looking through it, and then the second I look through it, on the other end, there's an old school flying saucer, except this was different looking. It was longer, had rounded edges on it, the ends, flat bottom, and a tiniest little thing peeking out the top. Not like a big dome or anything, the tiniest little nodule, kind of right in the middle. Everything was perfect shape. Mathematically, everything was spot on. And it was just sitting there, and I thought they were joking. I thought they'd stuck a sticker on the other side of the lens. And and I'm there going, I'm reaching around, trying to like touch the lens.
You're scratching multi-$1,000 lens.
Yeah, here I am, like destroying his camera, trying to prove that they're hoaxing me. and there was nothing there, so I'm like, oh, wow, okay. But then, what made me realize, hey, something strange, this is bizarre. The thing started moving slowly to the right, and I'm like, oh, okay. I said, Rob, I've got something here. I think you should really see this. And he's like, what is it? And I said, you better press record. So he pressed record, and we all saw the red light flashing and everything. And so and he's like, yeah, it's recording. He's looked through it. He's like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah. And he described what I saw exactly down to a T. I'd never seen anything what it looked like. And so it was moving, and it moved in between. I ran inside to grab my other camera and run back out my fork. So I'm filming it. You couldn't see anything with the naked eye or with the cameras, but with the thermal camera, this thing was giving off a heat source. So it was thermal, perfect shape. So it was just amazing. Yeah. Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit there.
Oh yeah. Sorry for a second. All right, we're back.
So, are they drawn to you?
Yeah, that's
because I'm telling you, I would be like you. If I saw one, I'd be like, okay, I need all the equipment. I need to spend all of my time figuring out what this is. I need to read all the books. Most people don't see one. Do you think they're drawn to you for some reason?
I've asked myself that's gone down the rabbit hole for me, because I've asked myself that question a million times over the years. Everyone has said the same thing, that they seem to be drawn to you. And in Australia here, when I do conferences and talks and that, I don't like it, but they call me the UFO magnet. I know, it's crazy. Or the UFO portal. That's even my doctor calls me the UFO portal. So I'm
what
like,
is the UFO portal?
There's something about you that they are attracted to?
I don't know. Maybe it's my brain. It's messed up. I don't know. I've got no idea.
Or maybe maybe that first one, that red one you saw as a little kid. Yeah, as a little kid, they tagged you. They put something on you and said, "This is our guy. Follow him around." And they use you.
Maybe. I wish I knew. Like, there's a lot of people in my field who'll see one UFO or two and then think they're Jesus, or think that they're special, or start up a big UFO group, and then, oh my God, and
I've seen
oh, look at me, and I've seen something, and it came from me. They all think it's there for them, or something appears in the sky. It's always there for them. I've tried to stay away from that whole ego trip, that they're here for me, that they're that whole thing. It doesn't really help in any way. It just paints the ego. And like, I think with me personally, because I've seen them since I was young, so they kind of become part of my life. It's not, so I've intertwined them into my life, you know what I mean? So, and I'm not like an ego-filled person normally at all. So it's sort of just become part of my life, and so I've just carried it on. And so I don't see myself as special in that way. I don't, other people might, but I back away from that. See, over the years, over the last decade since going public, I've met all sorts of people who think I'm this, I'm that. I had one guy who followed me to my presentations around Australia, and he used to threaten me.
He's your first groupie.
Yeah,
threaten you?
The worst kind of groupie. Yeah. Well, this guy called himself the reptilian hunter, and apparently, because he used to film me, and on the older cameras, like I'm part Italian, right? So I'd wave my hands around. I'm part Viking, i.e., my first ancestor was a Viking, and so I've got this wild. I use my hands a lot, right? And maybe because I used to use them in the battlefield. I'm joking. But and so when you're moving your hand around and someone's filming you and zooming in, of course you're going to get it like the frame rate, and in a darker room, your hands are going to appear like they're stretching out, especially with me, And so, like, he put them up online, these videos, and one or two where my eyes turned completely white for a few seconds or something stupid like that.
Where you blow sideways or whatever.
I've seen the reptilian videos.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I haven't got the sweet eyes or anything. Like it's more like an angel eye or something like that, or a demon eye, not a reptilian. Anyway, so I remember they threatened me like big time, and a whole bunch of them came to one of my talks. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put an end to this. So I saw them all sitting there in their little shirts, and I walked up to them and halfway through the presentation, and we had a bit of a break. And I'm like, yeah, guys, so you got a problem with me? I'm here right now. I walked right up to his face and whispered it in his ear. I looked out at his friends, and he's like, no, everything's fine. I'm like, oh, okay, everything's fine now, is it? Are you sure? You don't want to kill me? I'm right here.
He's slowly pulling out his vampire stake. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, they turned white, and I looked down at his friends. And I'm like, any problem with you guys too? Because they were there to back him up to kill me.
Well, yeah.
All talk.
You're a reptilian.
And I'm like, back your friends up, back your mate up. Like, he's the leader of your group, help him out. Nah, and they just sat there and just waved at me and smiled. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm out of here. That was a waste of my time. That's happened heaps. Like, where people threaten me, I've confronted them at my talks, and they back right down and run away like little, I don't want to say the word. And so, and then you've got the other people, the religious people who tend to think that, one, I've had a lot of people thinking that I'm another coming of Jesus.
The Antichrist.
So you grew a beard. I get
that's the other part of it. No, I grew a beard when I came to the country because I wanted to be a wild countryman. Yeah, so I wanted to fit in the country, right? So it'd be like dirty hobo looking kind of thing.
Show me your shoes.
Exactly. So so you've got the religious people, you've got the anti-Christ people who believe that I am some sort of second coming of Satan. And it's funny enough too, because my mum's favorite movie when I was a baby, before I was born, was The Omen back in 1978.
Oh yeah,
with Damien, the son of the Omen, or son of the devil.
I didn't even connect those dots until just now.
No. My uncle told me about 3 years ago that my mum named me after her favorite movie. And I was born a few months later, so I was like, "Thanks, Mum. Good on you." Awesome. So I'm named after the son of Satan. So go figure. But yeah, there's a gentleman and he used to be a professor over in one of your universities, and he's actually been writing a book on me it's for a while now, but it's coming out, I think, in about a month, 6 weeks it's coming out. But he's been writing this book on me for a while, for years now, and he's getting more and more proof and evidence and stuff. And he believes firmly, and he claims that he has evidence that I am the second coming of Satan. I mean, that's an absolute joke. And so this guy is actually writing a book, and he lives in the Bible Belt over in America, the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
We don't have that here.
Down south.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's great. It's making my head. No, I'm joking.
Oh my
it sucks.
God.
It really sucks. Like, yeah, I want that in
Like
my legacy to be left.
they're
Like
obsessed
when someone
with
looks up
you.
about me, the son of Satan. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
have cults that contact me all the time, UFO cults and all sorts of different people wanting me to be their public figure or their public
the
head or whatever
face.
you want to call it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But
Oh
you have
my.
to handle it, and you have to have a sense of humor too. You
Oh
need to
yeah.
have a really dry. It helps that I'm an Aussie too, and I love the country and I love the people, and we've got this really crazy kind of wit, and it's sort of like built into us. And me especially, because I've seen the weirdest stuff in my life, and it's kind of helped me get through a lot of things, like being able to take the piss out of myself. I had to have a joke at myself, have a joke at the whole field, the insanity that's involved in my field, the people that are attracted to it, the insane groupies that are attracted to it. Yeah, it's pretty
We've met a
crazy what I'm
few.
doing.
We've had a
Yeah,
few. Yeah. So you say
oh,
you don't
sweet.
necessarily believe
Uh,
that in
Send
aliens.
them my way, yeah?
Yes,
Send them your
we have a few. We will.
Yeah, sweet.
They'll form a whole new fan club.
Yeah, why
So,
not?
so do you
Bring them on.
believe that these craft, for lack of a better word, do you believe that they're unmanned? Are they so small in nature normally that, I mean, maybe
I,
what
I,
are those
I
tardigrades?
don't believe.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
tardigrades.
Tardigrades. Is that like Star Wars or something?
No, tardigrades are.
Tiny little
They're-
microscopic
I
creatures
think they're
that
called.
can live in a vacuum.
Oh,
They're called water
oh,
bears.
right.
They're
Oh, okay.
they're like a multi-celled organism that can survive space travel, and
Yeah.
they look like
Yeah.
little water
Star
bears.
Trek.
No, they're real beings. They're real critters.
No. I watch. I don't watch Star Trek normally, but a little while ago, I watched an episode of Star Trek, and they had this big tardigrade which they'd shrunk, like blown
Yeah.
up from it, and it looked like a
Yep.
bite or something. And they were like using it to like transverse the universe because
Uh-huh. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Flying around on
this
a.
live creature. Yeah, it was a tardigrade. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that Star Wars? No, Star Trek. That's right.
I'm gonna.
But yeah. Well,
Right,
these things, to answer your question. Sorry, you about to say something funny?
No, I was just gonna say, ride your battle tardigrade in. Storm the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I've got a whip in one hand, so
Yeah.
like a
Jousting.
horse, but it's going
Tardigrade.
really slow, super slow. Those things. Last time I ride one of them into battle, I'm going with the horses. Let's stick with the horse. Next
I'll bet
time.
they
Yeah.
smell funky too.
Yeah, they probably stink. They look
So-
like
Yeah, this one on Star Wars looked like, or Star Trek looked like it did. Yeah, it stunk pretty bad.
Yeah, they're interesting.
So do you think these are manned craft? Because they do seem to respond in a sense, or do you just think that they are an evolution of technology, or do you think something totally different?
I believe that they're intelligent. They're definitely it's some type of intelligence massively higher than human, intelligence. So I do believe that, especially the small ones. I don't know how you could fit any type of creature or anything in something this big. Like you say, unless it's like a miniature version of it and it grows up inside the ball. I highly doubt that though. We've got ones we've seen.
They're like
There's
turtles.
ones that have been recorded the sizes of two-story homes. I've
Oh
seen one down low
my
over the
God.
neighbour's home, which was half the size of this country home. Country homes are pretty big, and this one was moving across the rooftops, illuminating the tiles underneath. As it was moving, and I'm like, I didn't know. And then, so yeah, look, there's a theory that there's some sort of spiritual entity, spiritual being. There was a case back in, I think it was the 15th century in Germany, where a gentleman walked into a town near Nuremberg, and he was witnessed by people in the town at the time, and what they saw was a red light above his head following him, mimicking his movements. So when he would stop walking, it would stop. When he continued walking, it would follow him, and it was just above his head. Exactly the same thing as what happened to me when I was 9. This thing was mimicking my movements. That's why I ran home and ran to my mum and said, "Oh, no, I was really excited and everything." And So I knew it wasn't a plane as well, because this thing. And I read about this case about 3 years ago. It came out in a book by a ufologist called Jacques Vallée, and called Wonders in the Sky. And they go through it's a whole book about all the cases going throughout history, even like early history, like thousands of years ago, where people have described exactly the same things in the skies as what we're seeing now, these balls of light following people. But back then, they saw it in a religious way. So when this gentleman walked into this town in Germany with this ball following him, people saw it, and they saw it as a bad omen. They saw it in a kind of spiritual, more than religious kind of way, in a way. And some people saw it in a religious way too, but they saw it as a bad omen. So as he's walking through the town, people were shutting their windows, shutting their doors. The pub shut its door so that he couldn't go in. Yeah, it was really strange. So those things are being reported throughout history. Whatever they are, they're intelligent. But I think it's something that I couldn't even speculate on at the moment. I don't think they're little green or grey men hanging out in these things. But there's a theory too that they are some kind of probe, that they're intelligently controlled, but not within themselves, but by an external source.
Like a drone.
The same way that we would. Yeah, in the same way we would control a drone here on Earth. We'd fly it from over here, and it'd be seen over here. So, and it'd be observing things. So yeah, there's a good possibility they are drones. I mean, that's human words for something we can't really understand, but still, it kind of does make a bit of sense. That especially if my own theory about us being observed is true. They observe our nuclear weapons, they observe our airplanes, our technology, all the way throughout history. And they seem to appear to us in different ways over the centuries as well. The only thing that's really stayed the same are the cigars, the cigar shape. Some of the older school flying saucer ones have been reported way throughout history. And the balls of light. The rest of all the different shapes and different coloured things and all that sort of stuff, some of them seem to be new. Like back in the 1890s and that, just before airships came out, there was a flurry of these strange airships seen around the world, and with people on them doing strange things, people saying that they're from other lands, they're from other places up in the sky, and all these sort of things. So they were seeing quite a fair bit, and this is years before the actual first flights, or first known flights anyway, of dirigibles or blimps or whatever you want to call it. So they've appeared throughout history in ways that will not frighten us, but will, because back then we knew ships. Back in the Roman days, they described them as flying shields or burning shields flying through the sky. So they described it with what they knew at the time. Other cultures would describe them as burning wheels that would fly through the sky. So round things. So it's only what they could compare it to back in the day. So,
wasn't that the book of Ezekiel? Wheels within wheels on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got the Vimanas from the I can never say Bhagavad Gita.
Or the Mahabharata. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they teach the Indian kids. It's like most Indian kids grow up reading that stuff, And, a lot of
I can't even
parents
pronounce its name.
Kids, so.
Do you think we're just as?
I mean, they spoke about Mercury engines and everything back thousands of years ago, and the way these things would fly, and it's pretty much the same as what they're doing now. Which is bizarre. Makes you think, anyway.
Do you think we're just like a zoo? Like they just come down, they view the animals, like kind of you do with like we do with insects. Like I'm sure not every ant knows that there are humans, but some of them are being watched.
It's a sadistic 13-year-old with a magnifying glass in an ant farm.
Yeah, like maybe because they've yet to I don't know, engage. But I wouldn't stop and just engage with a cow I saw on the side of the road either.
Well, a baby cow.
Exactly. Yeah. If it was cute enough, you'd be like, I'm gonna get a selfie with this cow. Yeah.
Well. Here, up until about a month ago, there were cars all over this. We live out in the country as well. We're in Utah, middle of nowhere. And so there's baby cows, baby horse, buffalo, sheep, goats,
all kinds of stuff,
llamas, alpacas. They're all over.
Not native llamas and alpacas. People have them as farm animals.
They're not native cows. Well, they keep llamas and alpacas because it keeps the coyotes away.
Put them in with your sheep. They're mean.
Yeah.
Is that?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah,
Do
don't
you
mess
guys
me
have
up.
wild red? Do you guys have any wild rednecks hanging around?
Yeah,
Uh,
unfortunately, we do.
kind of
We may
are.
be related to most of them.
I kind of are one.
I kind of are one too. I'm in the country here. I'm like your version of redneck.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Oh,
know.
I don't know much about America, so yeah, it's always cool to ask like really stupid questions like that.
Well, it's probably, like Australia. It's a big place, so
Yeah, yeah,
what's considered a
different
redneck
types.
in one place is not considered a
Considered
redneck.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not universal usually.
exactly.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
down
yeah.
south. There's some places down south that are, the southeast
Yes.
that have some pretty thick rednecks in there. There's, insular places. I'm not erudite, but I am pretty. I'm as close to redneck as it gets.
So what other repercussions have you what other impacts have you had on your life from seeing these? I mean, your whole paradigm's different than I would say most of your peers at 9.
Oh yeah.
If at 9 you're seeing a UFO, what other
Change.
impact has that had on your life?
Very serious impact. I guess it's impacted family, friends, all throughout my life. Every time I open my fat mouth about it, I either don't hear from people again, or they think I'm nuts, or whatever. And that's fine. That's fair enough. There's such a stigma attached to this phenomenon that no matter what you do, no matter what evidence you have, most people won't believe. And like I say, the old saying goes, "You have to see to believe." And
Mhm.
this rings so true with the UFO phenomenon. You can listen to a million stories, you can have people pass lie detector tests and go, "Oh, that sounds interesting," but you can't fully believe or understand the phenomenon is real until you witness something highly strange yourself that blows your mind that you can't explain in any conventional terms. And that's what I say to everybody. And so that's why, like over the years, I've done a lot of sky watches with UFO groups. I've done a lot of sky watches by myself with friends in the backyards or wherever. I've gone to different areas, and so luckily for me, I've had now 203 witnesses in the past decade who've seen UFOs with me personally, in groups or whatever the case, and we've caught them on film or whatever the case is, and so I'm lucky in that respect. I've got a lot of witnesses. I have a large collection of photographs and videos of these lights and these UFOs and stuff like that. So it kind of backs me up as well. And I'm not looking for validation or anything. For me, what's driven me during my life is the pain actually of being rejected, having a different paradigm than everyone else, feeling different. It's affected my life greatly in a lot of ways. It's changed everything for me. I mean, I wouldn't be here, 33 years after my first sighting at the age of 42 doing what I'm doing and being in documentaries and, being on television, debating skeptics on TV, being on current affairs programs, traveling around everywhere and talking about it. I wouldn't be doing that if it didn't affect me greatly and if I didn't believe it to be true,
Mhm.
if I didn't know or want it to come out from my heart, because I feel passionate about it, really passionate. And, I just, the pain for me, I understand people, I have a lot of people around the world that contact me, daily, and because they feel they can't talk to friends or family
Sure.
or anyone, about this phenomenon. Even best friends, they feel like they can't talk to because of reactions they've had from others in the past. And I understand this so deeply. So I open my door, not my door, but I open communication with me so that people can contact me and tell me their stories. And over the years, I've had thousands of people, say, thanks so much. It's great to have someone to talk to about this. I've got nobody to talk to. Nobody understands. I saw this. It's changed my life. I saw you on this doco or this one, and what you're saying rings true. I believe what you're saying, and I feel like I can communicate with you, that I can trust you and tell you these things, and for me, that's a big thing. If I get nothing else out of this phenomenon, I make no money, and that's on purpose. I push money aside from here. I've spent thousands and thousands on equipment, on you name it, to try and get some truth out there and reality of this phenomenon to the world, and try and get rid of the stigma as much as I can. And the point of that is so that in the future, not for myself or people, in the past who've already, their lives have been messed up, or for coming out about this, and their neighbors think they're crazy their whole lives, and people around them think they're nuts and all this sort of stuff. It destroys lives, this. And at work, you're known as the crazy one or whatever the case is. And if I can just help with a little bit of the stigma attached to it, then, I'll be happy. I'll die a happy man, because for me, it's cut me in my life, but it's given me a lot of strength and a lot of power to want to go ahead, to push myself, to put this head publicly, to try and get this truth out there, and to cop all the flack, to cop all the harassment, the stalkers, the crazy fans, you name it. It's just been nuts. People thinking you're this, you're that, you're whatever. And I'd rather be called every other name under the sun. You can call me what you want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change what I'm seeing, what people around me have seen, and what is actually existing all around us. I don't think they're coming from other planets. I think that some of it may have been like that in the past, due to the older type of craft that would come here in the 60s and 70s and 80s even. But there's been something that's been with us the whole time. And this has been like an observance kind of thing. And we're speaking these balls of light. They do tend to observe people. And you spoke about it before, about us being like a zoo. And there's a thing called the zoo hypothesis, where it was years ago they came out with this, where it was to work out why, if there's so many aliens out there, why aren't they communicating with us? Why aren't they contacting us? It's because if they've been observing us for a long, long time, they would realize how wild we are, how crazy we are as humans.
Like playing with a badger. They're like, yeah, I see it. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so it's like an anthill, like you were speaking about before, right?
Mm-hmm.
If an alien came past an anthill, you'd be curious. You'd look down at it from a distance, but you wouldn't go and like hang out with the ants and step in the ants. It's a similar analogy with a scientist who's working on bacteria in a petri dish. You're growing the bacteria, watching it through a microscope. You don't go and live with the bacteria. So there's a role of observance on us, and it almost feels like they're letting us go naturally, letting us evolve naturally. But every now and then they give like a little hint of like, don't go this way or don't go that way. Like there's cases years ago where they'd send beams of light down into missile silos in America there and turn off ICBMs and then even sometimes start a countdown to a nuclear crisis, just to freak us humans out a little bit, to give us a warning that, hey, nuclear stuff ain't that good,
Yeah,
and
like don't blow each other up. We're still watching.
Yeah, or it could have greater ramifications for the whole universe, this nuclear energy that travels out there from these exploding bombs and everything. UFOs, there was a Russian general that came out a couple of years ago, and he mentioned that he said about 95% of the time, whenever they have exercises, and when I say exercises, I mean military exercises, they get en masse in the desert and they start firing at tanks and doing all that sort of stuff, just training, right? Whenever they do that, they have UFOs that show up, white or orange balls of light that hang up in the sky, just watching them. They pick them up on radar. They're visually sighted. Some of them are caught on film. And then they just take off after watching what's going on. Now, UFOs have appeared all throughout history as well in battles. There's two cases with Alexander the Great of Macedonia, where one of them where a shield came down, a shiny silver shield came down from the sky and swooped at his men who were on elephants and horses. They were crossing a river and they were going to go sack a city. And it freaked the horses and the elephants out so much that Alexander decided to not cross the river. So he took that as a sign. So a lot of people back then, as I was saying before, they take it as a sign of a spiritual sign of maybe let's not do that because this thing came down and freaked out the elephants and the horses and the men. So another time, there's another report, don't know if this is true or not, but a UFO buzzed above a city that they were trying to get into, his army, and it actually sent a beam of light down onto a wall and partly crumbled the wall so his army could get into the city. Now, there's strange cases like that all throughout history where they seem to be directing certain things for humanity to go in certain ways, certain warnings. But they, like back in the World War One, World War Two, especially World War Two, where with the any other war actually, where there's been aeroplanes, they've been following the aeroplanes. They used to call them the Foo Fighters back in the day, and these things would hang off the wingtips or follow the airplanes. And another thing they do is mimic what the airplanes are doing. So if the plane is doing an S turn, the object will do an S turn with the plane, and that's reported by airline pilots even to this day. So that they're doing the same thing. So yeah, it's gonna make you wonder. Like it's been around for a while.
I'm a close friend with a lifelong pilot. He's probably been doing it for 40 years. He's like, you would go insane if I told you all the times I've seen things that neither the tower or myself can identify. Happens all the time.
A lot of air traffic controllers say they see a lot of stuff.
That's another common thread. Air traffic controllers, of course, they are very much scared to come forward because you don't want to be seen as unstable or all of those negative things that come with just noticing something in the skies. So a lot of them just keep quiet.
That's right. Yeah, it was the case of the JAL, Japanese Airlines, years ago. A very famous case where a massive UFO was following this plane with the Japanese pilots, and I think they were going into Anchorage, Alaska at the time, and they had a plane full of wine. Like it was a cargo plane full of wine, and no, I don't think they were drinking or anything at the time, but they saw this beauty. But it was also picked up on radar at the time, and the things that this thing was doing, it was doing the same thing. It was mimicking, it was following them. They did a full turnaround and everything, and you've got to contact the base to be able to do that, air traffic control, to get the permission. I mean, you can do little S turns without permission to try and evade whatever, but to do it, you have to contact the base. So they've done that. The base has given the permission because they saw this target was following them directly. Anyway, so they've gone around thinking, oh, well, just this thing will keep going and blah, blah, blah. No, it didn't. They did the U-turn. This thing followed them around the entire turn. So when they came back around again, there it was again on the same side, just sitting there. So it's crazy. So, yeah.
Have you ever...
The captain of that plane, Captain Taruchi, he actually, after reporting it, he actually was taken off airline duty, made to sit on a desk for the rest of his...
Yes.
The pilot for the rest of his career. So I can understand why a lot of pilots don't want to talk about UFOs. But I think, and I know, and I hope that's changing, because over the past probably 2 years, I've had a lot more pilots contact me personally to tell me about their sightings. So I know that it seems to be the stigma attached to reporting it does seem to be crashing a little bit, which is great. Yeah.
Have you ever had any physical effects after seeing one of these? Like, do you feel any different physically?
Yeah. I had it's coming up to 2 years now in August. 2 years ago in 2019, I had an encounter, so to speak, with a purple ball of light. And it was just outside my office, and I was having a bit of a break from the computer, and this is early in the morning kind of thing. And I went out there with my dog, and we're watching this purple ball of light just hovering above the tree, just making tiny little movements, barely noticeable, and spinning or seemingly, but had like a strange thing. It was white in the center, whitish purple, which would move to the outside, and the peripheral was a much darker purple. So it was whiter purple in the middle, and it just sort of got darker the outside. I'd never seen one like it before, and the purple ones are extraordinarily rare. I'd never seen a purple one before. So you've got your certain colors, and whatever this one was different. Anyway, I watched it. It was probably the size of a basketball, maybe a little bit bigger, and it was probably about 15 feet away, just above the tree, and just at a slight angle, and very low tree though. And all of a sudden, a white light, and then it disappeared. And during the white light, I sort of put my hand up in front of my face, and my arm up in front of my face, and sure enough, that was it, and it was gone. My dog then started barking, and then it was gone. Anyway, I went and crashed and woke up in the morning, and I looked in the mirror. I was white, my eyelashes underneath were burnt right down to the skin. I had big red bags under my eyes, and my face was covered in red splotches. And I was white as a ghost too. I mean, I was white, like think Michael Jackson kind of white on his worst week, you know, kind of thing. And
he
yeah,
would
so
call that his best week. Just saying.
yeah.
That was
Well,
his
think
goal.
of him now, like right now, how white he is right now. He's white.
Mashed and bone.
Sorry, Mike. I love you in the 80s. I did, and the 90s, whatever. But yeah, this thing, over a period of about a week, I noticed a red mark started to appear on my arm where I held it up in front of my face, and I started getting really sick. The red mark started getting bigger and bigger, and then after about a week and a half, it started forming blisters in this one spot from about here down to about here, and that's it. But I was wearing a jacket at the time, so I don't know how I was burnt, seemingly burnt through a jacket. My partner and I at the time, we spent about 7 to 8 months going to multiple specialists, professors, doctors to get referrals to all these best doctors. Spent so much money trying to find out what was going on. I was having seizures. My dog started having seizures at the same time. I had to put my dog down because the seizures got that bad that he was constantly seizuring. So he'd stop one seizure, he'd lie down for about half an hour, then seizuring again. And it was just hell watching him go through that. And they didn't know what was causing it. They couldn't put a stop to it. So, he was my best. I love that dog, I had him for 10 years and he was my best mate, pretty much. I trusted him more than most humans, But it was sad because he'd seen a lot of UFOs previously here with me in Dunedoo here. So, yeah, it was sad. But I started getting really sick. During one of these seizures I had, I fell backwards and went to hospital. They found out that my back was broken in 3 places and compound fractures. And I was nearly in a wheelchair. If it got much worse, because of the vertebra being squashed, and also the mark on my arm, the blister started getting worse and worse. And I take photos every day of it and film it and everything.
That's the picture that we saw.
Oh, you've seen the pictures? Yeah,
Michelle sent us those. I wasn't sure what that was.
So was it?
That was the. You guys saw the nice pictures. You wouldn't want to see the really nasty ones. Now that's the strange thing here. You mentioned radiation. Now, when we ended up at I had a bone density scan done because I had all these results come back from all these strange blood tests they were doing on me, specialized blood tests, trying to work out what was going on. And they said that my whole system was out of whack. My whole body had been sapped of vitamins, iron, everything. So I had to go on this strict regimen of even probiotics that stuffed my stomach up, whatever this was. I've had heart problems since. Now I'm on heart medication at the age of 42, sorry. I'm going backwards a bit, but and yeah, so this thing is really, and so after probably about 2 weeks, the blisters popped on my arm, and then it left. Then I started feeling pain. Before that, I felt nothing. If you get a bruise, not a bruise, if you get a sunburn at the beach, right? You feel burnt and you feel sore for days,
immediately.
Right? This thing, nothing, and it was big red. It was bad looking, like green blisters.
Are you okay?
Yeah, can we share those photos on this live stream?
Are you okay if we share?
Yeah, sure.
Photos? Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Why not? Let's freak some people out. Yeah.
Yeah. Note to self: run when you see a purple one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyone else reported this kind of, I guess, traumatic recovery after seeing one of these, or is this a common thread?
It's not that very common at all. There has been cases throughout history where these things have given radiation burns to people, whether it be inadvertently or on purpose, seemingly. There was a case in Claras, Brazil, years ago. I started looking into the nastier stuff of ufology more after when I broke my back, because I didn't have much else to do, and I started thinking these things are like evil now, and what's going on with them. And of course, naturally, you would think that after this, after something like that happening. But I actually found out too. I'll just finish this off. But I found out too after this bone density scan that I had this thing. At first, they thought it was osteoporosis, And then they said, no, it mimics osteoporosis. Whatever it was mimicking it. And the closest they came to was a thing called hypophosphatemic osteomalacia, which is a hyper rare bone disease. I
Okay.
mean, hyper rare. And get this, is caused by exposure to radiation. That's one of the causes of it. So, I mean, having osteoporosis at the age of 40 is rare enough.
Yeah, especially for men.
But yeah, exactly. And they couldn't explain why or how. And I couldn't just say, oh, yeah, it's because of the UFO that
why
they think I was nuts. Yeah, they think I was crazy, right? So, I mean, I shut my mouth. I did mention to the professor, Bruce G. Robinson, out at the Collins Institute in Sydney, at the Sydney University. And he was like the best guy to go to, apparently, about all this stuff. And I said to him, "Can radiation cause this?" He said, "Absolutely." He said, "What type? What do you work with? What type of radiation?"
Yeah, where would you have gotten radiation?
So he starts asking you, tell me about your job. But it's.
I asked him. I said, "Can the radiation cause this?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely." What do you do? What's your job? And like I said I do work around some type of radiation, but I said it could possibly be electromagnetic radiation, because we can pick up the EM field that these things seem to be giving off, which breaks the Earth's magnetic field around them. So we can seem to pick that up through equipment, through trifield meters and whatever. So I mentioned that it was EMF, and I said possibly strong EMF, and he said, no, EMF won't do that to you. And I've looked into it since, and there's a and ah about that, but I think he's right too, because EMF wouldn't work like a microwave radiation,
right?
Because this thing burnt me through my jacket without actually burning the jacket. And how's that even possible? And on the same night, just behind me, there was a pile of DVDs just inside the garage door at an angle on the top of this cupboard. And so you could, it was directly behind me where I was standing, where this thing happened at an angle. And so after I'd broken my back, like, a week or so later, whatever, I had some time on my hands, so I grabbed open one of these DVDs or Blu-rays, and I was like, I'm going to watch a movie, right? So I open it up. The discs inside, the cases were okay for the DVDs, but the discs inside had looked like they were melted, but not actually melted, like crackled and bent inside, like they'd been put in a microwave almost, except the outside and the soft plastic on the outside, the cover and the paper, no burn, no sign that there was anything. So the top 6 or 7 in this pile were all the same way, all burnt, all melted, whatever you want to call it. I've still got them. I mean,
did it warp
crazy.
The plastic, and like the DVD is like a film on plastic, right? Did it kind of warp that?
Absolutely. I have one here. I'll show you.
Oh, it bubbled. It looks like it separated the film inside of it.
It melted everything.
Yeah, it bubbled it.
But the case itself
is fine.
It's just fine. Ruined a perfectly good game.
Yeah, and I don't even play games. I only bought it because I was like, I needed a Blu-ray player to play, and then this came with this Sony, because Sony's got Blu-ray in it. And normally I don't play games, but I was like, it destroyed me from ever even playing it. Maybe that was a sign. I'm meant to concentrate on them and not the game.
How do you recover from this? Because I would be terrified.
Oh, yeah.
How do you continue to do the research that you do and the filmography that you do after an experience like that? Like, that would be like, I'm done.
Well, I backed away for a year from the UFO phenomenon afterwards because I was sick, I was unwell, I was having seizures, my back, obviously. It took a while to get my health back and that. But it wasn't just that. I was depressed. I was saddened by the event because I've been doing. Okay, it sounds weird, but I thought that over the past, that they were here to help me do something. I know it sounds strange, but they were here. That's why they kept showing up, right? That's why
there's a mutual trust that you thought had built.
There's something, right? But it turns out that and I thought I wasn't that stupid where I thought, hey, they're all good or anything like that. But I wanted to believe that, hey, not that they're here to help us, but they're watching us, and what are they going to do? They're not going to hurt us, right? I've heard of some strange cases before where bodies have shown up and strange things and stuff they can't work out and all that. But I never thought that it happened to me, and I thought that not that I was untouchable or anything. I just thought that they had my back. I know it sounds crazy, but from the first one where with the red ball of light, and then the second sighting with the red ball of light chased away by the other ones, I always knew that there was something strange about this whole thing. It's like almost like something is keeping the red balls away from us or away from me. That's how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's strange cases like that throughout history. I was mentioning Polaris, Brazil earlier, this island off Brazil. Years ago, they had multiple lights and UFOs that were coming out of the jungle and then attacking villages. Now, this is documented. It is fully undeniable. It is fully documented. The Brazilian Air Force actually went out there and did an operation where they were on the beach over a period of a few months, photographing, filming these things, writing down their descriptions. The Brazilian Air Force saw them. These things were sending beams of light down through people's roofs into their homes and giving them radiation burns. 2 people died. Multiple dozens of people were seriously injured from this event. People were chased down the street by UFOs. It was sending beams of light down at them and burning them. So, I mean, if they're all good, then why are they doing stuff like that? It's like almost like we would do with ants if you're a little kid, right? Like we were speaking before, with a little petulant child. I'm going to burn as many ants as I can, or squash them with a ball or something, right? So it's really strange. So that's not the act of a intelligent, caring species that's looking out for humanity. But those cases are quite rare. But there are cases throughout history where bodies have shown up with ointment that's not from this earth on them, placed in places where it's impossible to get to, like they've been dropped from the sky. The high strangeness involved in this topic is undeniable, and it is scary once you start peeling back the layers. It's like layers of an onion. At first, the whole onion tastes yucky, but once you get through it and that, you realize it just keeps going and keeps going. So for 33 years now, I've been researching the phenomenon, looking into reading every book I could, speaking to as many people as I could, watching all the documentaries, the movies, you name it, trying to find out and having the experiences myself. So trying to work out what it was I was seeing. And so at the start, I'd probably say it was like little green men, from Mars, like everyone else would, like generally in the public, right? If you'd asked me that 33 years ago. But now, the more that you look into it, and if you're honest, you have to say that it's stranger than what you think. And it's not aliens, but it's alien to our belief system, whatever this phenomenon is that's interacting with humanity. It's very, very strange. And one of the things that happens, which is my next documentary coming out, it's called Haunted Skies. Excuse me. And it goes into the connections between phenomenon here on this earth, like possible ghost phenomenon and other phenomenon, and phenomenon in the skies around us. So if you ask a ghost hunter who sees a ball of light in his home or in a home,
it's an orb.
He'll say it's a ghost. He'll say it's a ghost, right? If you ask a farmer who sees a ball of light on his property, he'll say it's a min light, or what you guys call mystery lights, like Martin, Texas, and all these other places, right? But if you ask a ufologist who sees a ball of light up in the sky, what is it? He'll say it's a UFO. So in reality, it's the same thing, just in different environments. They give off the same electromagnetic fields. They affect equipment. They both affect animals when they're around. They both can be visible in the infrared spectrum and full spectrum cameras as well when they're not visible to the human eye. We've come up with about 28 or so different points which connect the two phenomenon, either directly or indirectly. At least I'm putting it out there because I've experienced strange phenomenon. So there's cases where there's flaps, like what I was talking about before, flaps of UFOs, or hotspots where you get a flap where you'll have 2 or 3 days or a week or two even where there's a lot of UFO activity, then it stops all of a sudden. And so you'll get those areas. But what we'll notice is in all these towns around the world where these flaps happen, you'll also have strangeness on the ground. So people are seeing UFOs in the sky while they're also seeing strange creatures or animals or birds or strange experiences in their homes, like things flying off the shelves throughout this town and weird things happening while these flaps are happening. So my theory, or one of my theories, is you guys have heard of dark matter, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, scientists believe that dark matter makes up about 80% of our universe, maybe more. So I believe that, but they can't. There's no way of finding out exactly where it is or measuring it or anything like that. But they know it's there. So I believe personally that the scientists have already said that there is other dimensions out there. So
Sure.
that's mathematically possible now. So I believe that that's where these things are coming from, possibly the same or different dimensions, but they're giving off the same signatures when they come here. They're appearing in the same way out of the blue. They appear in homes out of the blue, out of nowhere. They appear in the same kind of way, balls of light or other things like glowing objects or whatever the case is. So there's a lot of things that connect all the phenomenon together. I won't go into the more juicy ones because some of it I want to release in the documentary and sort of blow people's minds a bit. But there is a lot of strange things that are happening, and it's not as simple as aliens coming here from Neptune or Venus or anything like that. It's a crazy phenomenon. It really is. And what they do, they can affect your cameras, your equipment, your whatever. Whether they're doing that on purpose, sometimes it seems like they are. But so you don't get good footage. But other times they've allowed me to get really decent footage. So I don't know if it's if they get close and they're affecting the camera equipment. Who knows? But it's that happens also in ghost hunting or the ghost people as well.
All
they
the
have
time.
problems with their memory cards, their cameras, their power. One thing after the other. Just for instance, just quickly, 10 years ago when I was here, I had a UFO investigator from Australia come here called Peter Maxwell Slattery. We're in the backyard, and that day we'd been charging our camera batteries. We'd had our tripods, our cameras there ready, and a friend of mine loaned me one of his Sony old school infrared cameras to film with. So I've got that there, and he had like 14 batteries or something. So we made sure over that period of the day, all the batteries were fully charged on both of our cameras. Not a problem. Everything was working fine. Had a bag full of massive batteries. I'm thinking, yep, got the camera set up. Within about half an hour, we saw a row of lights in the sky, like up above the tree line, off in the distance. And there were multiple colored lights, blues, reds, green, yellow, and orange. And they were moving like backwards and forwards. These going on and off, on and off, on and off, like they were rotating around something. And then it's got bigger and closer. And so, boom, we started filming, shooting. I got one photo off on my little Sony camera, and I caught it on that, a little bit blurry because it's nighttime or whatever, and it was an older, crappier camera. But then we started filming on the regular cameras on the tripod. And sure enough, we're looking at the this thing coming over really slowly, and it's starting to come over the yard, and boom, one after the other, our batteries would start at full and then go dip right to zero, just like that, gone.
Just draining
one
them.
after the other. He had a brand new camera with brand new batteries, and I had an older camera, but still batteries were charged. It shouldn't have been a problem at all. One after the other, they died. So in the end, we just gave up and watched this thing slowly go over the top of us. So low, it was so incredibly low. Same thing happened up at the one I was telling you about, the one that went up at the Gold Coast after my talk. Went out between two buildings, went out to the ocean. Now, we thought we had the best footage in history. So they've gone back to the hotel room, and then they've come back to my hotel room, knocked on the door, looking dejected. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here? You're not going to believe what's happened. They said, okay, well, what it did was, this is the first time it's ever done it. Before that incident, never done it. And after that incident, never done it. So what it did was it actually filmed the audio, but not the video part of the recording. So it separated the video, so you couldn't see the UFO cruising.
With everyone
with
talking
buildings
about,
in the
look
background.
how slow it's going. And
Yeah. So there's 15 people on this balcony carrying on, and oh wow, and all of us talking about what it looks like and everything.
Video.
And sure enough, no video, but there's electrical interference over this black screen. Like something happened big time there. So whatever it was, seems to affect camera equipment, but not humans, which is bizarre too. So yeah, it's strange.
Do you
I
think
mean, it affects
maybe,
humans in different ways.
do you think maybe
So,
with your different interactions that there's different groups of these that are visiting, competing, maybe
yeah,
adversarial
Well, they
groups?
do seem like they have very different personalities, so to speak.
Yeah, there may be a group that's indifferent to us, another group
yeah,
that's negative towards us, another group that's positive towards
Peaceful.
us.
yeah. It does seem to be that way. There seems to be some sort of battle. I mean, when I say battle, if you go back again to I think 1561 in Nuremberg in Germany, there was a case where, and it appeared back in the day they used to use woodcuts and then lay them on ink and then print the pages of the newspaper with these
Mhm.
woodcuts. And so what happened was one morning, people in this town woke up near Nuremberg and witnessed balls of light flying through the sky, different colored balls of light. They described them all and everything with cigar-shaped objects and other different weird objects, which we know today as UFOs, 100%. And they drew these out with people standing around, thousands of people watching this event where they describe beams of light being shot from one ball of light to another, and then balls of light falling out of the sky and catching on fire when they hit the ground. Now that's just bizarre. 6 years later in Basel, Switzerland, the exact same thing happened again. Exactly the same, down to a T. There was flying crosses in the sky. There was all sorts of balls of light fighting like a war. And they were fighting against the red ones. It's the red ones which followed me when I was a kid, the red ones which I saw 2 years later or 3 years later with my brothers, which were coming down from the sky, which is chased away by the blue balls of light and the green ones. And so it's got to make you wonder what is actually
Yeah.
going on around us with the whole
How much we're
phenomenon.
just so oblivious
If
to
we're
it.
being, we're living our lives like running around. That's what I used to say to people. They used to say, "Why do you see so much?" I say, "Because I look up in the sky. I don't
I
just
can ask,
when
do
I
you
go
like
to work.
run into
I
things?
don't."
Always looking
Yeah,
up.
probably, but people do that now, looking at their mobile phone
It's
crossing the
true.
street. They're walking in their cars anyway, so I'd rather
My
do that
favorite
and look up at the
videos.
sky. Yeah, so, exactly, yeah. So, but yeah, like they ask me, I just say, look up. That's why I see it. Most people they go to work or wherever, and they just look straight ahead or
Yep.
they look down. And once every blue moon, they'll look up and then wonder why they don't see anything. It's like it's
Do you
random.
think we're building to a crescendo? Do you think that there will be like disclosure at some point? Like, are things, in your opinion or in your field, are they ramping up? Are there more sightings? Are there? I mean, I would say it is far more acceptable now to have said you
Yeah.
saw a UFO than it was even 10 years ago.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. It is. There's with the proliferation of the internet, UFOs being the second most searched topic on the internet. You know, after sex, of course, or porn or whatever. Um,
Well,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
so
But,
funny. Oh,
They just got to
yeah,
put those two together. Captain Kirk, have a good night.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so with all that and the advance of technology, the advance of camera equipment, we've got thermal now, infrared, the best, and all this sort of stuff, great equipment. With all this stuff, it's becoming harder and harder for the government to keep this under wraps as a secret. You know, especially look on YouTube every day, someone's putting up a clip of something that's filmed around the world. You get, of course, you get your hoaxes and people trying to make money off it, and people, trying to make themselves out to be super special or whatever. But then amongst that, you have a small percentage of real footage, which is appearing every single day around the world. And there's a theory that once every, I mean, a UFO is seen about once every 5 to 8 minutes somewhere around the globe. So, I mean, that's
that's a
telling you a lot. I
lot.
mean, these things, and also since coronavirus as well, the numbers have spiked through the roof. The reports that I'm getting from around the world have just like gone up about 700% over the last probably 3 or 4 years to this year, last year. So it does seem to be a spike in everything, whether that's because people are home more now and they're on the internet because they're bored and they're watching UFO stuff that they normally wouldn't watch. So they're becoming more interested and looking up in the sky more, whether it's that or whether the fact that the UFOs are here in greater numbers for whatever reason, i.e., because of COVID. They seem to come at times of trials and tribulations for humanity. So they seem to come at times of war, petulance, famine, disease. There was reports throughout the Black Plague of UFOs all throughout Europe, like seen in great numbers, and high strangeness too. So yeah, they seem to come in times where humanity seems to be at some sort of precipice or crossroads. So, which I find very interesting itself. Yeah, they're watching everything we do.
Mm.
So before we cut you loose, tell us about. Now, I've seen Australian Skies. Great documentary.
Yeah. Call out your documentaries.
Yeah, tell us,
Plug
what are
them
you
real
working
quick.
on, and where can people go to see like your footage and really dive into these
Okay.
things?
Yeah. Don't go to Australian Skies. Go to Fractured Realities.
Okay.
That's my personal documentary I made myself. There's Beyond the Spectrum, which is made by another gentleman called Darcy Weir. That was my first documentary I appeared in years ago. The Australian Skies out there, everyone's seen that. That has some of my most terrible footage on it. Much better footage now, much better camera equipment. I mean, that was filmed many years ago before it
Yeah.
was released and put onto, you know, and yeah, working this Fractured Realities, part 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 is out there now. Part 2, I'm nearly finished. There's Haunted Skies, which is coming out soon. There's another Canadian documentary by Rob Freeman coming out soon. And there's another 3 documentaries that I'm in at the moment, and I'm giving my footage to, and I'm doing interviews for. They're coming out before the end of this year. So, and maybe up till February next year. Sorry. So, yeah, there's quite a bit happening at the moment. So, yeah, if you go to YouTube, you can watch Fractured Realities for free. That goes into, you know, my earlier sightings with artistic renditions from when I was a kid, and then you've got photos, videos, some of my better stuff, you know. But it hasn't been until I think 8 months ago when I came up here to sort of recover a bit from the whole bone thing, and I'm working out. Because in Australia, you're only allowed one of these bone density scans once every 2 years. So I'm not due for my next one until October this year, because that's when 2 years ago when I got the last one done. So I won't find out whether the treatments they've given me have been 100% successful until I get this, you know, bone density treatment thing done
Yeah.
in a few months. But yeah, like fingers crossed. But you know, so I've put down a lot of work, and so I'm just still doing some podcasts every now and then and stuff like that. But and trying to concentrate on finishing my doco. But I'm not doing so much out in the field action at the moment because I lost a lot of weight after I got sick and after this, you know, thing, and it's just been a hell of a time trying to put it back on and look sort of semi-healthy again, and you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy the field I'm in, and what I've seen and done and been through and everything. And I don't know how many lie detector tests I can pass, you know, to convince everyone. But I'm not trying to convince everyone. You know, you either believe or you don't. And at the end of the day, you know, I know what I've seen. I'll speak from my heart till the day I die. I'll speak up for other people who can't speak about what they've seen and about this phenomenon. You know, but I find it a bit scary, the government now, after rubbishing and ridiculing people for so many years, wrecking people's lives, now are coming out saying, oh, it's okay, look past all that. Now we're saying it's real.
Yeah,
Like,
the
what?
United States government just did that. I mean, forever they were like, oh, you're crazy, you lose your job, don't talk about it, doesn't happen. And then they put out this tiny little blip, this little, you know, public announcement. UFOs are real. We have footage. We've known about them forever. Thanks for joining.
22 years they 22 years they investigated with Project Blue Book, and then you had Grudged and Project Sign before that. And what conclusion they come to? Project Sign said, oh yeah, there's something to it, possibly. Their general said, no, go find an earthly explanation. So they did. They went back and said, oh no, there's nothing to it. And then Project Grudge. Everything's swamp gas. Balloons.
Yes.
Weather balloons. I mean, seriously, a weather balloon doesn't change direction, doesn't speed up, it doesn't stop. That's what they tried to say a decade here ago, that, oh, there's probably weather balloons. No, I've got video of them changing directions, zipping off at high speeds. Weather balloons don't do that. They don't change color. They don't stop and then change direction. You know what I mean? They just these things exhibit certain patterns of behavior. Real UFOs, real UAP, whatever you want to call it, it's indistinguishable from magic. These things are incredible. But you can work out what they are. Once you've seen a few, then you know the way they move, the little characteristics they have in their movements, and you can't mistake them after a while. So it's all about observance, keeping your eye in the sky. And oh, here we go. I'm back in the screen. I was moving to the left there. Yeah, so fractured realities part 2 is going into the type of craft or type of UAP in our sky, the variety, their characteristics, what they do, what they've been observed to do throughout history, to try and give them and showing my own videos backing this up. Like a lot of these things, I have footage of these things hovering above the ocean and then diving into the ocean at an angle without any effect on the wake on the water, without any splash, just as if the water wasn't there, just straight into the water, gone. And I have footage of these things on infrared and regular cameras hovering above mountains just over here, and then doing the same thing, flying into the ground, into the mountain at high speeds. I have 3 videos of this. Undeniable, can't be anything else apart from something highly bizarre. I mean, we've ruled out meteorites, we've ruled out all these different things because these things change direction multiple times, then stop before they go into the mountain. Meteorites don't do that. So yeah, there's some real strangeness, and there's areas around the world like Dunedoo here that are just full of activity, but not every day. It's not every day. It's, like I said, they come in flaps, they come in waves. Also, that's what they call them too, flaps or waves of UFOs action. Sometimes 2 or 3 days in a row, then nothing for a month or 2 or 3 or 5, and then boom, and then another week of action, and then nothing for a week or 2, then maybe a day or 2. It's strange. You can't work out exactly when they're going to come. I used to write them down thinking that, oh yeah, if they come more in this month or they come this month, at this day, I'll be there at this day, and then they don't show up. So it's crazy. There's no pattern to them, really, except for a few small things, which I'll be revealing in Haunted Skies and Fractured Realities as well, so part 2.
So Haunted Skies, when does that come out? Are you just working on it now? Don't have a release date?
I've been working on it for a while. I was hoping to have it out by May, but yeah, that hasn't worked out. So I'm a bit behind. I got a lot of computer issues. For some reason, electrical stuff don't really like me. I've gone through 32 mobile phones now in the past 8 years that have died on me, all in the same way. It's really bizarre. They just go black and then die.
You're sending out a bad signal.
You might have like very first
17 computers as well. 17 computers.
I mean, I kill computers too, but that's because I don't know what I'm doing. But you might have like there's some reason they're drawn to you, and that may be a part of it.
Well, Harvard actually contacted me after I got sick, and I did an interview where I spoke about, like about a year and a half ago, I spoke about what had happened to me, and first time I ever went public about it. Anyway, they contacted me because I was recommended for the study, a Harvard Medical School it was, and what they found was in the study that certain people who have see UFOs their whole lives, they have in MRI scans on their brain, a certain part of their brain is lit up. They don't know what it is, and it's not lit up generally in 99.99999% of the population. So whatever they found was really strange. But to be involved in this study, you have to be recommended, number one. Number two, you have to have more than 15 to 20 visual UFO sightings in your life. Every one of them has to be with witnesses, multiple witnesses, and you have to have photo and video of those sightings, plus physical trace contact, i.e. some sort of evidence that you've been in contact with UFOs. And so I filled out all those 5 categories easy. So I don't know how many else they had in the study, maybe 1 or 2, I'm not sure, to get that result in the first place, to tell me about it. but they wanted an MRI off me. But as soon as like I agreed to be part of it, strange things started happening. I lost website, I lost a whole bunch of stuff in a period of a week. I lost my email, I lost my YouTube channel that I'd spent.
Hey, you need to shut this guy down.
Yeah,
okay, Elon's the alien,
yeah.
Zuckerberg's the android, but
Yeah, it's true.
either way,
Yeah. He's a robot, isn't he? He's like a
Oh.
Yes,
full-on robot.
100%.
man, even how he's like ashen white, but right around his eyes is like pink, like super red around his eyelids.
So you have
What's
a
with that? Yeah.
you have a
Sorry.
Facebook page where people can go and kind of see some of your footage, correct?
That's right. I have a public figure Facebook page now. I started up a couple months ago, and also just a regular Facebook page. So if you wanted to reach out or get in contact or whatever, contact me through Facebook. At the moment, I mean, all my email, damien.john.not.1979 @gmail.com. That's my new email. But yeah, that's pretty much the only ways I have been contacted at the moment. I was pretty much wiped off the face of the earth, and that's like part of the reason why I left as well, because I was like, whoa, people don't want me to be involved in this. The UFOs don't want me to be filming them. I was like, yeah, this sucks. After all these years of like wonderment and having the kid inside me still and being in wonder and looking up at the sky, I lost all that, So yeah, it affected me. Being unwell, being ill, it really affected me. My whole, not just the mind, the body, the whole kit. So I'm not one to give up easy. Anyone who knows me knows that. So like I'll fight on until the day I die, especially if I know that the cause is worthy and my heart's into it and my heart's into this and the cause is worthy. So I'll keep
That's
fighting.
awesome. We've got a couple of comments.
Yeah, we got a few. Now, there was an Australian on here making comments, and
we may need a translator.
Yeah, need lots of training. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt you will. Go the Aussies.
There's all right. Let me keep running up the comments. Couple from India as well, and there may be a language gap, but someone mentioned Lena Noon. Never heard of her. Asking if we've ever heard of, or maybe you've ever heard of Elena Noon. She's like an alien, I guess. I don't know. We'll have to dig through and do a Google search later.
Go past that one.
I honestly can't say that I've heard of a Lena Moon.
Noon, like the sun straight up. Noon.
These are just comments. Okay. So go down to the questions.
All right. There's a guy coming in from Lake Eildon. All right. Hi. Lake Eildon. I don't know where that is, but hi. Thanks for listening. Someone says no photos or videos of experience. Yes. He just mentioned the stuff you can go watch it on. And also we will put links to all of his stuff in the show notes.
Yeah. And we'll let you know when we hear that his latest documentaries have been released.
When the latest show is out, we'll share it as well on our Facebook, and hopefully we'll get him back on here to chat some more when it comes out. Another person sounds similar to my. This is William. Sounds similar to my experiences when I was growing up in San Jose, California, and. So it sounds like he saw a lot of orange crafts there. He's interested in the orange crafts you mentioned.
Yeah, how many orange crafts have you seen? Are they common?
Yeah, they're the second most common type of UAP that we see here in Australia anyway. I can't speak for overseas, but I'd say pretty much the same kind of thing. I mean, the white ones are the most visible ones in our skies. Then you've got the orange. Orange seem to come down lower a lot more towards the ground. And a lot of them seem to be associated with the cattle mutilation side of the UFO phenomenon, if that's real.
We live near Skinwalker Ranch, so not far from Skinwalker Ranch, and there was a lot of cattle mutilation out there.
Yeah, you go.
I heard about that.
Yeah, we're a couple 100 miles from Skinwalker Ranch. Also, We're a couple 100 miles from what's that town in New Mexico that
Roswell.
really kicked
Roswell.
off? Not Roswell, the one that kicked off the mutilations.
Oh, I know which one you're talking
Alma,
about.
New Mexico,
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, there was a ton of mutilation in Alma.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was
That's
one
where it
up
all
in
started, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
there and in Oregon. They kind of hit off right about the same time in the 60s. Another guy, I don't know if this guy's real. I can't read the name, but we'll call him Alan Rag. Yeah,
It's an Alrog.
Analrog. Yeah, sorry. I messed that up. We have a military plane, and a man was stoned to death because he said he was from another planet, and his family come and he sell
Sell the
photos
photos.
for 2,000 rupees. Okay.
So this one says we've experienced several visitations from the 30-foot brilliant orange crafts that are known to leave a cloudy residue behind. But
they do.
They said that they kind of danced in front of them for over 40 minutes with just like 75 meters above the Pacific Ocean.
That's a very impressive sighting, yeah. And he's right too. Not just the orange ones, but the white ones and other UFOs too. If you look closely on them, if they're seen close enough with the naked eye, or if you're zooming in with the camera, they do tend to leave a mist or a trail behind them, which dissipates as they go. I saw one years ago that I was on a way to a presentation, and Melissa and I, and this thing was flipping. It was a circular thing, almost like a disc almost, but it wasn't. It was partly see-through, translucent almost, but it was glowing white, and it was flipping over in the sky like you flip a pancake, but it just kept flipping and flipping. As it was flipping, it would leave this trail, this residue. Now, I've got some really, really good footage of this happening. So, yeah, I've seen that a few times with the residue. So that's the first time I've actually heard that being mentioned by another gentleman across the other side of wherever the gentleman's from. So, yeah, that's quite impressive. So thank you for telling me that. So.
This one says they are drawn to him just like others like us on the planet. He has a spiritual connection to them as others, yet many don't believe because they don't understand. This is a spiritual cosmic gift. I was very confused like you, but after meeting my wife, Atma Rolling, all was validated and explained. There are others like you in Australia and the USA. Says that you need to be, or maybe try being put under a trance or like hypnosis to bring forth other answers. And then he goes on to say
I'm one of those few that can't be hypnotized. No. So, yeah, I've gone through that over the past decade, and a million people have asked me, and, yeah, we've even tried it.
Thinking that you would find some answers.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I've been to, like, channelers. I've been, not that I paid for it or anything, but I was dragged along to one and who did a free channeling on me and channeled some alien. And I was just like, no, this ain't real. But no, it wasn't. It was terrible. She kept on, like, blinking and looking at me to see if I was watching her during it. I'm like, I can see you. Hey, stop it. So, yeah, it kind of turned me off that whole New Age part of it a little bit, that and a few other things. But yeah, like, I've tried being hypnotized, regression therapy, whatever the case is. But, yeah, I don't think I can be hypnotized. So something locked in my brain or something. I don't know. But, yeah, good idea, though. So,
but they say that, that just like there are good and bad on Earth, there's probably the same throughout the entire universe, or,
exactly.
Infinity.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. Either good or bad. That's a human concept, good or bad.
Yeah, it really is.
Maybe they may be indifferent to us, like we are indifferent to a bunch of ants in an ant's nest that we walk by. We just yeah, they're ants.
You kick them out of the way,
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes like they tried to do to me, but yeah, no, I don't know. Who knows really? It's just so many questions come up, more and more questions, and you just want answers. And I've become resigned to the fact that I may never get the answers I've been looking for.
You would have to.
I've become resigned to that fact,
Yeah.
And I might die and leave this earth and not know what's going on or whatever. And, that little kid in me who always wondered is going to be, disappointed. I don't care. I've become used to that, and whatever happens, happens. can't do much about it.
Yeah.
It's life. It's fate. Where we end up, we end up.
Just enjoy the
Whatever happens,
ride.
happens. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a way cool experience. I'm excited to watch that Fractured Realities, and then part 2 as it comes out, and then Haunted Skies is your other one.
Yeah, I'm going to put I want to put a
Sorry.
call out to all the listeners, jump on YouTube, look up Fractured Realities.
There's several different documentaries that kind of start with that, so we'll tag the appropriate one to this video.
Yeah, we'll tag the appropriate run. We'll tag all your pages, your public stuff onto this video and everything. But yeah, go check it out. This is real interesting. I like the thought that there might be competing drones or craft out there that are competing either for our attention or for control. And then one of them getting violent with you, that one's shocking. And maybe it didn't mean to. Maybe it was a failure. Like when you said you saw the one that was flipping like a pancake. Oh, I think we lost the headphone. There we go. We're getting in there. Anyways, maybe it was maybe
my headphone.
Yeah, we're headphone killers. We found that out last week too. Maybe that one you saw that was flipping like a pancake was flipping because it had a failure.
You there?
Yeah, we're still here. We can hear you.
No.
Yeah.
I can't hear you at all. Okay. Gone.
Yeah. That's okay. Well, we can we want to thank you, Damien, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. This was a fun show, and definitely have to go watch Fractured Realities, and I want to see any of the evidence that you've caught on camera. That stuff always intrigues me. Yeah, he's fighting with headphones, but everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for showing up. We'll look in the show notes and on the Facebook page and on YouTube and all the podcatchers. We'll have all the contact information in there to go look, to either get his documentaries, go watch it on YouTube, or to reach out to his public page.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Thanks for joining. Have a good night.